So now we come back. This is what Shabbos is all about. This is what Shabbos is. Nothing was created on Shabbos because it was the completion of creation. So what is really happening on Shabbos, if your ears are listening clearly, Shabbos is the time when Hashem yells in every person's ear as loudly as possible and says, stop concentrating on the details of your life. Because that's what the 6 days of the week are. The 6 days of the week are separate details of existence. The tendency of a person is to focus with great intensity on the little detail that you have in your world that's right in front of you, which is your way of contributing to the world. Right? And there are some people who are so small-minded, or small view, they have a myopic way of looking at things that they can never outgrow that. So you could have people, for example, who have professions, teachers, doctors, lawyers, and during the week, and there's still a doctor and a teacher on Shabbos. Meaning everything they talk about on Shabbos is the same, except they just don't turn the lights on Shabbos. But everything else is the same. So that's the problem. By Shabbos it says, Vayechulu hashamayim v'aretz v'chol tzvam. Hashem finished everything in the heavens and the world. Vayechulu means to complete all of creation. What does it mean to complete? It's like when an artist has been working on a painting for a year, and then he puts the last stroke on, and then he says, voila! Now I'm done. And now I'm going to look and appreciate everything I put on the canvas. Right? Or let's say even better, if you've ever made, Chaya does this on vacation, it's one of her favorite activities to buy a 5,000-piece puzzle. You ever try to make one of those puzzles? Right? And then like a third of it is all blue. It's like when you have at least different colors you have here, it's all blue. Like 1/4 is all blue. And she could be at it like for a whole day, trying to get through the blue. And that's why it only works if you're going on vacation like for a week. If it's a day vacation, it ain't going to happen. But usually by the end of the vacation, she finally finishes it up, and then like voila, it's all there. Hakol. The whole thing's there, right? And those words, etymologically, the word vayechulu, he finished, has the root kol. And there's another word that has kol in it, and that's what? Kala. A kala. A bride. And that's why Shabbos is called the bride. You know why? Because by a bride, everything has to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect. When you look at the kala, like if there's something missing, it ain't the kala. She can have everything good, but she has running shoes on. It just ain't the kala. Right? The kala has this aspect of perfection. Really, it's a deeper mindset. The kala should realize that for the last 20 or 25, or sometimes its kala is until 30, but to realize, you know what? Hashem really made an amazing picture to get me to this point in time. All the guys that it was a terrible shidduch, and this didn't work out, and that didn't work out, and this broken shidduch, and this having trouble with this and that, and some people go out with lots of guys, this doesn't seem to work out. But at the end of the day, you're sitting under the chuppah, the complete package is there. When you're under the chuppah, then all of a sudden the complete package is there. Till the last minute, it's not there. But at that moment, it's like Shabbos. So Shabbos is the Shabbos Kala. Kala means everything's there. When the picture is finished, Hashem takes his brush off of the mat and he says, take a look, give a kick. Take a look what I got here. Right? But don't do any more of those 39 details of creation. Stop painting. Stop looking at the details. Lift your hand off the canvas already and take a look what's on the canvas. Now, if you can't do this on Shabbos, if you cannot do this on Shabbos, say the rabbis, the great rabbis, if in this world you cannot take delight in the Shabbos, then even when you get into the next world, even if you never sinned in your life, and they're going to give you a great spot, but you're going to feel the exact wording they say is going to feel like a bench made out of wood. And you're not going to realize what's all the excitement going on. with no feeling and no understanding what's going on. You could mamish be sitting in the chamber where the Mashiach himself is there in the higher worlds, and you have wonderful neighbors like the patriarchs, and you're wondering, why is everyone so excited over here? You get in this place, and then you'll still be complaining. You'll say, I'm here, but how come my cousin got a nicer spot? Or, man, it's drafty up here. It's like, because you're so hung up on those details in your whole life, you're still hung up on those details, even in the next world. It doesn't change. You have no golden rule. Things don't change in the next world any better than what you did in this world. She said, well, I wasn't so good in this world, but we mean Shabbos. The way you celebrate Shabbos is the way you're going to enjoy the world to come, right? So you can sit in the next world and be a very small person in the next world without Shabbos. Shabbos is when the painting is finished, and it's hakol. Everything in the world is just perfect. From Vayehi Or, from the first moment of creation, until Olam Haba, the last, it's one big painting. And that's why this Nusach Sfard Siddur for Shabbos is also much delicious than the Nusach Ashkenaz. Sometimes I wish I could change my Nusach, because by Friday night they have this extra paragraph called Kegavna. It's in Aramaic. And it says some beautiful things from the Zohar. It says, Raza de Shabbos. What's the secret of Shabbos? Dis achta b'raza de echad. Everything combines with the secret of the one. The secret of Shabbos is the whole picture is able to be seen. You can't see the whole picture on Monday, but you can see the whole picture on Shabbos. But if you're still reading newspapers on Shabbos, that means you're looking at details. It's not so much reading the paper as a sin. It's just you're still looking at details. It's not a time to look at details. You want to know what's going on in the world, Sunday through Friday. You want to read the newspaper? I'm not a big fan of reading the newspaper, but if you are, okay. But on Shabbos, that's the opposite. You're not supposed to be looking at details anymore. Right? You don't have the breadth of hakol, of everything. So the world, you think is mamish not worth living. But on Shabbos, when you see the one goal of all things, that's why the rabbis say Shabbos really has no evil. We don't accept any evil. They tell a story. I think it was the Chavetz Chaim. I could be wrong. It could be another tzaddik. He did not get the mail on Friday. He would not take the mail on Friday, because you can imagine what kind of mail the Chavetz Chaim would get. Everyone's saying this problem, that problem. He loved all Jews. And he took every problem seriously. He says, I can't read this stuff on Erev Shabbos. I can't. I'll wait till Motzei Shabbos. You got to get out of the details of the life. And in that same prayer, Friday night in Kegavna, it says when Shabbos arrives, the Sitra Achar, the opposing force of evil, gets pushed away. So all the suffering, all the misery, and all the evil of the whole week really is pushed away, because everything gets engulfed in the unification of what Hashem is all about. And a person's really able to understand it if they do all the things the rabbis tell you to do to get ready for Shabbos. On a very simple level, I'm just overly simplifying it. You can imagine a family of 9 children is not easy. Okay? And if you will look at the details, you will go out of your mind. You can take any day in the Michalowicz house, you can literally go out of your mind. If you look at the details of laundry, you can go out of your mind. The details of making the meals. And this one doesn't like this, and this one likes that. And you make a fleischig thing, and this one only wants pizza. And this and that. You go out of your mind. And trying to have quiet in such a house. You can go out of your mind. Paying the bills. You can go out of your mind. Doing the tuition payments. You go out of your mind. How are the kids going to go to camp? You can go out of your mind. Right? Every one of these deals. And then the interpersonal relationships. This child thinks you're not giving them enough time, and this and that, and all these things. And it's one pain in the neck from Sunday to Friday. That's what it is. That's what it is. The details. And then you come Friday night, and if you just forget about every single detail, and just look at those 9 beautiful children, and those 4 beautiful grandchildren, and just forget about every single, what do you see in the picture before you? That is Hakol. That's Hakol. That's everything. No matter what. And during the week the car broke, and during the week, this one had to go to the doctor, and this one broke an arm, and it's crazy. You get in an automobile accident, especially with a lot of teenagers in the house. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. They're not at fault. It's the other people that it is. Right? And you got all this aggravation. Right? But at the end of the day, what do you got? But that's what you have to do. But you can't do that if you still have all the details in your mind. For everything, if you're worried, how am I going to finish that business deal? That's just a detail. That's a detail. All those details are supposed to bring you to be with Hashem. To be with Hashem. And all is meant to appreciate there's Hashem in this world. And the only thing you're supposed to be thinking about on Shabbos, the only thing is Hashem. And the gifts that He gives you. And when you have the time to stop and you really look at, Hashem gives you a skill you don't have other 6 days a week. It's a blessing. The blessing is to see the whole picture. And it doesn't come to anybody just stamazoi. If you're doing everything you do during Shabbos, like you're doing the week, except I'm not turning the lights on, and I'm not cooking, but I'm still focused on details, which is okay during the week to a certain extent. But don't you see what I'm saying? Right? Did I say this before when in the 10 Commandments that Hashem says in the second commandment that when He gives punishments it goes for 4 generations, and when He gives rewards it goes for 2,000 generations. Right? So what does that mean? So Rashi says that means there's a ratio of 500 to 1. So don't we know the math? So the rabbis explain what that means to say is, don't you realize that what Hashem does in this world is always 500 times better than the bad that He does? It's a 500 to 1 ratio. It says that right in the second commandment. Now look at the percentages. What's the percentage of 500 to 1? It's 99.8% good. So what does that say? It says if you look at the whole picture, you'd see 99.8 is good. You know what the problem is? Keep looking at that 0.2%. That 0.2% is you lost your job. That 0.2% is you got in this accident. This 0.2% is the kid's not doing good in school. It's only 0.2%. The Yetzer Hara makes that seem like 99.8%. So Shabbos is the one day where He says, you know what, why don't you look at the whole picture? If you look at the whole picture, yeah, you see that little 0.2% that really it's making the rest of the picture look a little bit nicer too. It makes it look so much nicer too. Right? That is really what the Shabbos is capable of doing. Okay? Do you understand? Now you can understand the Mishkan. Let's go back to the Mishkan. Okay? There's a place where the Shekhinah, the Kala, still resides. In only one place. And that place was the Mishkan. It's the time where the Kala is in the Mishkan and like it resides in the Shabbos. And that's the connection, the deeper connection of the Mishkan to the Shabbos. Beyond the 39 activities that you can't do on the Shabbos that you did to make the Mishkan. The Mishkan was a microcosm of the whole world. Where somehow when you would look at the whole creation in one frame, because the Mishkan was beyond space and beyond time. There were miraculous things. You could fit things that couldn't fit in. Right? The Aron could not fit in the space that the Mishkan has. It was beyond space, beyond time. Now we don't know how to step back and see the pictures and still live. So in the Mishkan, you have the frame that has everything. It's like mamish, everything. The whole world is there. You're there. It's like it just blows you away. Therefore, the Mishkan, same with the Mishkan. If you focus on the details of the Mishkan, you're going to be very far from impressed. A bunch of skins, a bunch of wood. It's not so impressive. The details. If you look at the whole Mishkan, so if you look at the whole Mishkan through the 6 days of the week, when you're working and when you're building and you're focused on details, you don't see anything at all. When they were building the Mishkan, they didn't see anything. Right? But even let's say you look at Karbanos. If you think about why they slaughtered animals, it's such a disgusting thing. You know, there was flowing rivers of blood streaming up to your knees in the temple, especially on an Erev Pesach. You have no idea what it means to slaughter 2 million animals in a few hours. Mamish, they were swimming in blood, right? Now, blood isn't the most pleasant thing, right? But the Talmud says that the most wonderful thing the Kohanim would be, the best situation, being up to their knees in blood. Essentially, just parenthetically, there were two rabbis in the early 1900s. There was Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, who was the head of the Haredi community, and Rav Kook, who was Rav Kook. Okay? So, a lot of people mistakenly thought they didn't get along, and it's not true. They were really wonderful friends with different philosophies of Jewish life. So one day, Rav Yosef Chaim, they're walking to the Kosel. Rav Kook would call it the Kosel too. He wouldn't call it the Kotel. Anyway, so they're walking on Chol HaMoed Pesach, right? So Rav Yosef Chaim said to Rav Kook, he said, "You should be up to your knees in blood." And Rav Kook said, "Amen." And a lot of people who were hanging around thought he was insulting him. So Rav Hutner of blessed memory says that the people around them didn't understand. They didn't get the whole picture. But the blessing was that the Mashiach should come. If the Mashiach would come, we'd be up to our knees in blood, and that would be an amazing thing. But all you hear is your knees should be up in blood. Ugh, that's disgusting. But if it's in the context of bringing 2 million Paschal offerings, that's a very beautiful thing. So again, when you look at all the details of the Beis Hamikdash, and when you're reading the Parsha, and the wood for this, and the wood for that, and the spice for that, you're going out of your mind. It's so boring. It's so uninspiring. But when you look at the details, it's not so great. But when you put it all together, then all of a sudden, the divine presence was there. And that's what we say in this bracha on Shabbos. Hakol yomru en kadosh Hashem. Everybody says there's nobody holy like Hashem. So that's what the Mishkan was. If you looked at the little pieces, it's not impressive. When the whole thing was together, that meant the microcosm of all of creation which was in the Mishkan, then you were impressed. Because you have the whole picture. So on Shabbos, Hashem gives us a special gift. And what is the gift? The Neshama Yisera. The extra level of soul. Everybody gets that Neshama Yisera. And Rashi says, what's the Neshama Yisera? Rashi in Tractate Beitza says, I'll say it in Hebrew and in English, Rochav Lev, a breadth of heart, Limnucha Ulesimcha, to rest and have joy, V'lios Pasuach Lirvacha, to be open in a wide way, V'yochel v'yish, to eat and drink, V'naf shekatzalov, and it doesn't make you disgusted. What does that mean to say? It means it's all there to make you have a breadth of vision. Rochav Lev. Right? To look at the ability to look at the whole world differently. Or as the Slumber Rebbe says, it's this yearning for Hashem. You get a dose of yearning for Hashem. Other 6 days a week, you're yearning for this world. It's a yearning for Hashem. It's a broader way of looking at the world. That's all what it means. A person is Hakol Yoducha. Person, everybody praises you. But if you act on Shabbos like the 6 days of the week, then all you see is more food on the table. And you kind of get sick from it. You overeat on Shabbos, you get sick. That's what Rashi says. You'll eat on Shabbos, you won't get sick. Because you understand what the food's there for. The whole 6 days a week, we eat food at the wrong times, and we eat at 11 o'clock at night, and we eat it when we're depressed, and we eat it to give us comfort. We use food for everything except what it's supposed to be like. And we're on diets and this and that. Shabbos doesn't want you to be on diets either. But if you're on Shabbos, you get the whole picture. You understand how to eat food. You're eating food in a way that's meant to be productive. And if you're able to step back and say, you know what, it's all Hashem, and Hashem is everything, and then you can step back and say, you know what, it's amazing. It's amazing. And that's when you're supposed to, Friday night, bless your children. Because the whole week long, you're not going to be in the mood. He's going, what blessing are they? All the details. This one doesn't want to go to this camp. This one's giving you a hard time. What's the blessing? But it's all part of the watch that makes you stop for a minute so that you can go further. It's all what it is, you know. So when do you see it? When do you see it? When do you see it? Liat, when are your parents going to see it? All the work they put into. They're not going to see it. They're going to see it on June 27th when they take you under the chuppah. At that moment, they're going to say, all the hundreds of thousands of dollars that her Jewish education costed, and all her mood swings, where at one point of her life she wanted to do this, and at one point she wanted to do the opposite, and just like every other adolescent goes through life, right? And that's where your parents' hairs get gray, and all these things, and all the gray hairs, and all this. They're going to say, at the end of the day, she's under the chuppah of a Jewish boy. That's it. That's the whole story. Now, if they were smart, and if I was smart, and all parents were smart, so when you look at the kid when they're 12, you look at them under the chuppah then. They're going to be under the chuppah. If you would only look at the chuppah when they're 12 and obnoxious, because it's part of the clock that's slowing down so they can be what they can be. They can't be the good person till they're making mistakes and learning from the mistakes, right? So if you would just be able to see the chuppah, on an Erev Shabbos 20 minutes before, when the house is crazy, it shouldn't be, or when your kid has done something, has crashed the car, right? Because they thought they were so smart and they could drive without looking anyway, right? But look at the chuppah. Look, the chuppah is the final picture. It's the final picture. Most in normal families, usually the chuppah is a nice time. I mean, you have families that it's Hatfields and McCoys, they don't get along. But a normal situation. At the end of the day, are you thinking about all the problems they gave you as a parent? Okay, I don't know. For those of you who have merited to take your child to the chuppah, you understand what I'm talking about. And those who don't, just believe me. Just believe me. There's that time, there's this time, everybody knows the Badekin, right? The chassan goes and there's 100 people singing and climbing, and then he goes back. It's a big tumult. Now, you ever wonder, if you haven't done a wedding, what happens after that and before the chuppah? So what happens? So everybody tries to find their seats, right? There's about 10 minutes where they're trying to get everybody into their seats, right? Do you ever wonder what happens, what the chassan and kal are doing then? You never dawned on you to think about that, right? Because you're busy finding your seats, still schmoozing with somebody, and of course 95% are on their cell phones, because, I got 10 minutes, I have to catch up with the whole world. That cell phone, by the way, you see, that's the focus on the detail that's destroying your life. Do you understand? You go to, last night we had a nice pidyon ben, and everybody who's got one, what do you pidyon ben? It's a beautiful simcha. Focus on this. No, I'm missing something. An appointment here, appointment there. I'm more efficient. You're more efficiently looking at more details that get you to not to see the bigger picture. Right? So anyway, let's not lose focus here. So what happened? So then you got 5 minutes where the father, the mother, and the chassan or the kala are alone. It's 5 minutes. Say if you're smart and you have a good rabbi, so the good rabbi comes over and he sets the tone for you to make sure that you maximize on those last 5 minutes. Instead of still looking at, is my hair straight and is my this, that, that's the time for the child to finally say something to the parents that they should have said maybe sometime during the last 20 years. And a smart chassan and kala will, and something that the parents will say something clever to their children, and that's the Shabbos. And then you have the full picture. And then what usually happens is you just bawl your eyes out. You have nothing to say. You have nothing to say. You have nothing. You try to talk and you just cannot talk. Because the whole picture is so overwhelming, and you have so much gratitude to God. Now, again, you can lose that moment. You can lose that moment and say, "Oh, do we have all the guests? And it's this and that." And then, you get hung up in those details. You only get those moments very infrequently in your life. Right? So that's the Shabbos. Now, really, if the way Hashem wanted it, remember, before the synagogue gap, we wanted to be able to feel Hashem's presence everywhere. But we couldn't, because we could hook them in the deal. So now we're in the Mishkan. So let's make the thing for time as well. Really, you could experience Shabbos all 7 days of the week. And that's what Hashem really wants you to be able to do. And to the degree that you have the Shabbos the way it's supposed to be, that can carry itself into the rest of the week, and to keep you still focused on the big picture as opposed to the small picture, and then you don't have to be aggravated any time during the 6 days of the week. That's what that's Zohar es Yom HaShabbos HaKadosh. That's what it means, remember the Shabbos. Remember the good to look at the bigger picture all the time. But unfortunately, most of us, if we can get to Shabbos, we're lucky. So that's the beauty of Shabbos. And now it all fits in, how everything fits in now. That the whole season of Ador and Purim, right? So, we finished Purim, we're now at the Pesach. You cannot get to Pesach without Purim. It's a rite of passage. If you don't have Purim, you will not have Pesach. What do I mean to say? You won't appreciate Pesach. Right? And I don't have the time to go through the whole story, but it says, Vayehi bimei Achashverosh. It was in the days of Achashverosh. The Gemara says, whenever it says Vayehi, it's an expression of suffering. Something bad is happening. And indeed, bad things happen in the story. But the beautiful Hasidic word says, Vayehi, when is it bad? BMA, when you look at life just in terms of every day as a separate day and not connected to anything else, then it's unbearable. Today was a terrible day. How'd you think? It was terrible. The lineups were terrible, and this was terrible, and I got the bank account is overdrawn. And if you go day by day, if your life is day by day, because of every day doesn't have the full picture, that's a taka, it's a tsar, it's a terrible thing. And the story of Purim, when you look at it in terms of days, was 14 years of unbearable days. And if you look at every single detail of the Purim story, they're either ugly or absurd. In other words, the ostentatious party, the description of the food and the clothing and the harems and all these things are just ugly or absurd. You take any event of the Purim story, take one pasuk and fixate on that pasuk. You go, yuck. Esther is taken into the palace, yuck. Esther was an orphan, yuck. Mordecai saves the king's life, the king doesn't reward him, yuck. The Jew, Haman goes, they bow down to him, yuck. It's ever, Haman decides to kill the son of 40 ladder, yuck. Remember, you go day by day by day, it's terrible. Right? The greatness of Mordecai and Esther is that they understood they were part of a new era of existence, and they knew that it all had to come together at the end. And there's certain mystical traditions that tell us that Mordecai already knew secretly that there was going to be a good end, wasn't sure exactly how it was going to be, and therefore he never got nervous. Even when Haman came to him and he says, you better bow down to me, Mordecai didn't even flinch. He didn't flinch. He wasn't disturbed at all, because he said, I'm not going to let this moment get me too excited. Because there's a bigger moment that we have to realize. There's a bigger picture. Their greatness was that while they were living through unbearable details, but if you believe that something is going to happen in a whole context eventually, there's going to be a time when the brush goes off of the painting, so then it's going to be a masterpiece. Not too many people can connect the dots. That takes 14 years, from the beginning of the Megillah till the end of the Megillah was 14 years. And put it together. You know what 14 years of all these days equals? It equals one word. Purim. It equals Purim. Now you tell me, is Purim a good picture or not a good picture? And it's a good picture. Purim's an amazing picture. What made the picture of Purim? All the ugly details made it happen. That's how Purim came into being. And you can believe, how could something so beautiful, Purim is so beautiful, how could it come through so many ugly details? Because every ugly deal was just a detail disconnected from the whole picture. But that's what it eventually it means, Purim. So, said, how are you going to come to Pesach? You first have to have Purim. So, of course, this is where you can really lose it, ladies especially, and husbands that are kind. Yeah, what's going to cause you to not enjoy the Pesach is going to get caught up in all the details. Think of the details, that this has to be cleaned and this has to be ready and this has to be ready. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be involved in details. It's the way we feel. But just keep remembering, just think of one thing. The real thing is what? The Seder night. And the Seder night is where you're transmitting what it means to be a Jew to your child. Right? And that's what everything Pesach is. It's seeing the whole picture of Hashem in the world. Right? So then you realize that whatever I'm doing, it's only, without this little thing, we're not going to have a Seder, but it's the Seder is everything. And of course, if it's a spiritually minded Seder, then that's fine. If it's just an eating fest, then it isn't really going to give you much to look forward to either. So how can you come to Pesach if you don't appreciate that every detail? Is it a pleasure to clean up a cupboard from chametz? In and of its own right, if you look at it, it's not. It's yuck. But you're going to have a house that's totally removed from any impurities, and now you have a pure, beautiful house that Hashem's presence can come down and give you a gift. Seder night is a gift, just like Shabbos is a gift, but that gift only comes to people who prepare for that gift. So then you can be saying, I can really get through this. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Don't get hung about the details. Like Rabbi Nachman says, for example, everything in the world has a goal. And every goal has another goal. And every goal has another goal and another goal and another goal. Until you finally get to the final goal. He gives an analogy. A person's goal is to build a house. So the first goal is buy materials. Second goal is, start building the house. Third goal is, complete the house. The fourth goal is, be comfortably living in the house. The problem is, we've stopped there. What was the next goal you're supposed to have? The final goal is, I'm living in this house in order to serve Hashem better. That's the goal of all goals. Isn't that the goal of all goals? Why did you have all the aggravation of having to sit with the builder and this and that and finding the mortgages and all the other things, all the little goals and building it? There's only one thing. What? So Hashem could be in this house. Oh, Hashem's in this house. It's a pleasure. So our problem is we forget the purpose of all purposes. We could be at that second last goal, the fancy house and all these things, and still be miserable and small because, while another person could be living in a shack and is happy with his shack because his shack is bringing him to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what's interesting, the two people? One person is connected to the purpose of all purposes, and one person is not connected to the purpose of all purposes. So if you're stuck before that last goal, which is Hashem, which is the artist taking the brush off the canvas, the Shabbos, it makes all the difference in the world, how beautiful the house is or not. If you forget the goal, then, of course, it's not going to be pleasant. So, let me just finish with a story. Okay, there's so much more to talk about. It's like unbelievable. Like the whole Indian of how the greatest blessing in your life is being forced to live with people that you can't stand. What you want to know more about it was the Wednesday night class we spoke about. You wonder, how could Hashem put me in a person that I can't stand? Because we have such small ideas of who we are. We're so narrowly focused. I'm a person with a certain characteristic, and I want to remain that way forever. The example in the Bilvavi Sefer, he talks about a person who's a big neat freak. He loves to have everything neat. And what happens? He has to live with somebody who's messy. So a person can be miserable. But the truth of the matter is, every person is, every characteristic you have really enslaves you to that characteristic. Really, I need an hour to talk about this. I'm going to say it in 3 minutes. But, neatness is good. It's good. But if that's your character, then you're stuck in that place. And you can't ever do anything that goes beyond that. And really, Hashem wants you to master all traits. Wants you to really be more than just a neat person. There's other qualities that are necessary, and there's other people who you can have, for example, you can have the Seder. I'll give you an example, the Seder, right? So you can have a neat freak who, as the Seder's happening, they're cleaning off the crumbs. They're cleaning off it has to be clean. But we're talking about the makas now. God's taking this out of it, but it has to be a clean Egypt for us to go out of. Now you're going to say, well, you have to be clean. But you understand? Even your cleanliness is a little bit too much. You have to know when not to be clean. So you know what? You can learn something from a slob. Now I'm not saying you should be a slob. But something about a slob has a certain joie de vivre. Now, I'm not saying the extreme isn't good. But he doesn't get, you mamish have a Seder, you got a Seder, and everything's beautiful. Your husband's making Kiddush. And of course, the 9-year-old and the 8-year-old are fighting with each other. So one throws a matzah at the other. It hits your husband's Kiddush cup, spills all over the table. The whole Seder's ruined. She worked all day, and look, the wine is all over the place. The white carpet is now red. A wife like that should be finished. That's it. Oismensch. You know why? Because she's a slave to her neatness. She's such a small person. She's such a small person. She can't get beyond that. It was good to have a neat Seder, but then there's a time to being a slob is also fun. At a time. At that time you say, you know what, we'll just put a few napkins. What's going on with the Seder? The Seder is the thing now. It's not how neat. I wanted neat to be the cover of the Seder. Okay? And it was. There was one moment Hashem took a picture. I did it. Fine. And that's it. But now, that's it. Now we're going out with the Seder. And don't have to be so you see what kind of slave you are to who you are? And the truth is, if you'd ask a person to be a slave, they'd never accept that. So how are you going to not be a slave? You know how you're not going to be a slave? You're going to be married to somebody who's a slob. You're married to a slob. And you're going to be fighting tooth and nail. But slowly over time, you know what? You're going to give up a little bit on your holy neatness. And if you just take 2% off of that neatness, and hopefully the slob will pick up some neatness too. You understand? But it comes with a lot of pain. Right? So how unpleasant it is. How did I get married to you, dear? I don't know. I'm so neat and you're such a slob. I don't know why I didn't recognize this when we were going out. So Hashem, but at the end of the day, Hashem wants you to be a person who's a little bit more balanced. And then maybe you can enjoy your Seder. Right? So that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is to be able to say, I'm fighting with my husband all week long. He's a slob and I'm neat. And then on Shabbos you step back and say, it really is pretty nice not to be so uptight about how neat things are. But you only do that on Shabbos. You have to have that breadth to be able to do this. Oh, let me just finish this one story. I could tell a million stories. This is such a beautiful story. It'll take about 3 minutes. So there was a great tzaddik his name was, I always forget their names, Rabbi of Ushpitzin. Ushpitzin is what Auschwitz. There used to be a Jewish city near Auschwitz. It's called Ushpitzin. So he was looking for a Rebbe to be a mentor. He was a great rabbi himself, but he needed a Rebbe to be a mentor. So there was a big tzaddik, Reb Shlomo of Chishnov, who was going to come to the city. And he said, maybe this will be the rabbi that will be the person who will inspire me. But there's a lot of rabbis. I don't know if necessarily it's going to be the rabbi. I'm going to have to create a little bit of a test to see if this rabbi is really Taka, the rabbi for me. So there was one person who lived in this community, in this small town, whose name was Chaskel. Yecheskel, we call him Chaskel. And he was a porter. He was a schlepper, one of the lowest jobs that existed. And whenever came Sunday, a lady they didn't have the carts and all this in those days. A lady buys a 25-pound sack of potatoes. She can't take it home 5 blocks. So you hired a porter. You give him a dollar, whatever. He schleps it. But he would say, "Oi, so and so, you have so many potatoes. Maybe you could spare for Chatzkel 1 or 2 potatoes l'kavod Shabbos." And whenever he carried, he always has l'kavod Shabbos, in honor of the Shabbos, in honor of the Shabbos. And Sunday, and by Wednesday he was mamish so into l'kavod Shabbos. By Friday he always sang a little niggin, l'kavod Shabbos. And it was nice, but people thought he was a little bit strange, because knocking off with this religious stuff already. Covered Shabbos. Be normal. And the Shabbos is covered Shabbos. So, and since he wasn't so bright, so people looked at it. He was like a nebuch, a nerd. So anyway, so people didn't really give him a lot of cover. Anyway, so came the time where this holy rabbi comes. So the other rabbi, Rabbi says, I'm going to sitting in the back. Now, Friday night, the rabbi comes. The custom is everybody goes and shakes his hand and gives. Because Shabbos, everybody. If he's a really great rabbi, I'm going to see. I'm going to be in the back, and Chatzkel, I know, is going to be in the back. I want to see what happens. So the Rebbe comes. He says, "Good Shabbos, everybody." And then the Rebbe notices there's no people in the back. So the Rebbe opens up his. He says, "Oh, come and say Good Shabbos to me." And Chatzkel's a little bit nervous, but the other Rebbe gets a push over there. We'll go. So the Rebbe takes Chaskel's hands, and says, "No, tell me your name." So Chaskel was so bashful, so humble, felt he was such a nothing. He goes, "My name is Chaskel." So the Rebbe didn't know who he was, right? He says, "Is that your whole name, or maybe do people call you by something else?" So he says, "Well, yeah, they call me Chaskel l'kavod Shabbos," because he's looking in terms of people making fun of him. Right? So he says, the Rebbe says, "And why do they call you that?" He says, "Because, when I carry their packages, I always sing l'kavod Shabbos." So he has such low self-esteem of himself, right? So the tzaddik's eyes filled with tears, and he holds Chatzkel's hands even tighter. He says, "Gevalt Chatzkel, how I envy you. You have such an exalted name that everybody calls you l'kavod Shabbos, and for such a holy reason. Mamish, it's an honor that I could shake your hand. So please tell me a little bit about you." So he says, "Rebbe, there's really not a lot to tell. I never knew of my parents. They left the world when I was very young, and I didn't have any other family, and I lived on the streets, and somebody had a little mercy on me, taught me a little olive base, but I'm really a big Amoritz. I don't know a lot, I don't have much. I never got any education. I got married to a poor girl, I have kids, and I'm a trucker. I'm a schlepper. That's all I am. That's my whole life. That's all there is to say." So the tzaddik squeezed his hands again and says, "Listen, Listen, Chatzkel, there's one more thing I need to know. Why do you always sing? You know, when you sing, like, why do you sing? What are you thinking about when you're carrying those packages and you say L'Kavod Shabbos? What are you thinking? So then the Chatzkel starts crying. And he says, Rabbi, I know the beginning, but I don't know how it's going to end. I know that in the beginning Hashem created the world, and I know that Hashem had the patriarchs Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and the mothers and the 12 tribes. I know that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim, and He took us to Eretz Yisrael. We had a beautiful temple. I know all that. And then Gevalt, what happened? I also know what happened next, that the Jewish people sinned, and we went into the exile. You know, and we're in the exile without a home. He says, Rabbi, I know the beginning, I know a little bit of the middle, but I don't know anything about the end. And I ask Hashem, when will the end come? When is Hashem going to take us back to Yerushalayim and bring the Mashiach? When will we be able to sing in the holy temple L'Kavod Shabbos in honor of the Shabbos? That's what I ask Hashem. So he says, that's what I sing. I say, my song is really my cry. And I pray to Hashem and I say, Rabbi Hashem, L'Kavod Shabbos, in honor of the holy Shabbos. Let the end come soon. L'Kavod Shabbos, for the sake of the Shabbos, let the holy temple be rebuilt. L'Kavod Shabbos. And this time, the holy Rebbe, he couldn't control his tears, and he mamish starts crying in front of me. He says, Chatzkel, he says, you mamish know the secrets of everything. You mamish know the deepest secrets. He says, everything we carry, everything we do, everything that happens to us in all our lives, Chatzkel, everything is L'Kavod Shabbos. For the sake of the great Shabbos that's going to come. And if all Yidden would know this exalted truth, then the end would come. So now the other rabbi says, well, this rabbi passed the test. He's a rebbe to be a rebbe too. And the day that rebbe left, mysteriously Chatzkel left. And nobody saw Chatzkel again for many, many years. And later, and then when the holy rabbi passed on, but many, many years, the other rabbi, who became the rabbi in Ushpitzin, and one day he found Chatzkel. And he found that the other rabbi was able to turn Chatzkel into one of the 36 hidden tzaddikim. Don't make him such a tzaddik. So that's what Shabbos is, and that's what the Mishkan is. And that's what we have to appreciate. That the details are going to get us depressed. But if you see the final picture and see it all in its context, there's a lot to have simcha for. Okay.